The market just had its worst calendar year since 2008, and in my portfolio, I've taken a bunch of L's recently, including once hot tech names like Palantir, Tesla, and more. I've been getting a lot of questions about what I invest in, so today I want to reveal my portfolio and show you all my holdings across stocks, cash, crypto, and angel investments. Now, I acknowledge that my portfolio size is quite large for someone in their mid-30s, and this is because I started investing a long time ago when I was a financial advisor, so this has been over 10 years of consistent investing in the making. Now, contrary to popular belief, I was able to do this while still buying coffees out pretty regularly and going by my coffee name of Kevin. So in a way, maybe Kevin was the one responsible for some of my losses lately.
Bruh, I said you could use my name. Just don't blame me for your losses.
So yeah, let's actually get started and talk about some of my stock accounts, starting with Wall Street Bet's favorite, Robinhood. So this is my Robinhood account. It has $63,000 in it, but if we actually just look at my all-time here, I actually started back in 2015 or 2016 with $57,000. And you can see that the account size just kind of fluctuates and it goes absolutely parabolic. It actually hits a high of $167,000 or $173,000 on February 1st, 2021. If you remember, that's the GameStop saga. So I actually bought a lot of GameStop stock back in November of 2020 for less than 15 bucks a share, and it just went absolutely parabolic during this time. I should have cashed out. I didn't. The balance then went down to about 114,000, went all the way back up to $139,000. At that point, I did cash some money out, and I also took some big losses in Palantir this year. So let's actually look at my holdings here. If you scroll down, you'll see my stocks that I own: Palantir, 2,200 shares, Tesla, Meta, and gold. If we actually look at my total return, we can see that I'm down quite a bit on Palantir, down $38,000. Tesla down 7K, which is a big shame because we were up 20K at some point. Because of this position of Palantir, it's the whole reason why my total investment portfolio is actually in the red. And so had I just invested in something that was literally just not Palantir, I would have been probably fine. So when you have a big loss like this, it definitely drags down the rest of your investments in your overall portfolio. And I will tell you why I bought it. First, I thought they had a really strong cash position. They have over $2 billion in cash on their balance sheet. Two, they have reliable customers in that more than half of the revenues come from the US government. And three, I thought that any geopolitical tensions that would go on in the world meant that there would be a heavier reliance on Palantir software. I do think because it's a meme name, it's also a growth and tech stock, that the fears of recession as well as higher interest rates have really hurt this name in my portfolio. And overall, I'm pretty embarrassed by this loss. It's a huge loss. So I'm not sugarcoating it. Sometimes you just take big L's like that, but I definitely am going to change my strategy moving forward, which I'll tell you all about at the end of this video. All right, so it does get a little bit better from here, and let's actually go through what's in my Roth IRA, which is my retirement account for long-term investing. A Roth IRA is an account that you can invest into, and then when you retire, you can take out all the earnings entirely tax-free, and this powerful account is so good that the government has capped you at contributing $6,500 max a year to it. It also has an income limit too, so if you make way too much money, you can't actually invest in a Roth IRA, but you can do a traditional IRA. I have a bunch of videos on my channel about that. But this Roth IRA, I started back in 2015. So my Roth IRA is up about 5.6% all time at $6,119. And that means my total contributions to my Roth IRA over my lifetime have been $22,000. So it's doing quite well in that regard, in that we haven't lost money. And here's some of the things that I own in this Roth IRA. So I have 3 ETFs in this Roth IRA: VTI at the bottom here, the total stock market index, VOO, and VEU. And VEU is basically my international index fund. I almost never look at this account because it's a retirement account anyway. So if you're someone who's young and wondering what to invest in a Roth IRA, you don't actually have to do what I do, which is buy ETFs. You can buy something a little bit riskier, like individual names, if you think that they're going to be around in, say, 50 years. So something like an Apple or a Google. Or you can buy more dividend-paying companies within a Roth IRA, so that way you're not being taxed on the dividends. Anyway, this brings my cumulative portfolio value to $63,000 plus about $29,000, so about $92,000. Next up is my WeBull Brokerage account. Now, I've talked a lot about WeBull on this channel before because they're an affiliate partner of mine. So that means whenever you use the link in my description below, you get 6 to 12 free stocks when you deposit $100, and I also get a free stock and some commission as well. I also just want to make sure that I'm using the platforms that I'm affiliated with. So in my WeBull account, I have a net account value of about $119,000 right now. And as you can see, I only have 4 positions in my WeBull account: JP Morgan, Gold, Meta, which is a very small position of Meta, and Apple, which is my biggest position. I'm down quite a bit on my Apple position because my cost basis is $145 per share. But as you'll see in my Fidelity account, I actually bought Apple. Apple is actually one of my first stocks that I ever bought. And that's because when I was a financial advisor, I worked in the Cupertino branch. And since Apple was from Cupertino, just by proximity, I was just around a lot of people that owned Apple stock. So that was my first stock that I ever owned. These days though, whenever I do have some extra money to throw around, I'll put it in my WeBull account, usually buy some Apple or some JP Morgan. And these are both companies that I'd be really comfortable holding for a very long time, probably forever. So if you've been keeping track, this brings our total cumulative portfolio size at this point in the video up to $211,000, which is absolutely crazy to say. But let's actually go on to my next biggest account. Actually, it's my largest brokerage account, and that's gonna be my Fidelity account. So in my Fidelity brokerage account, this is my largest account at $272,000 at the time of this recording. And if we actually look at my holdings and my positions, I'm gonna show you that Apple is one of my biggest gainers, 302 shares. And you can see that when I bought this, the cost basis was only $68.46. And I've even dollar cost averaged into this over quite some time. So the total gain and loss in this particular holding in my Fidelity account is plus $18,000 or 89%. In terms of some of the other names I own in my Fidelity account, AbbVie is a huge one, Google, Gold, again, ExxonMobil, and JP Morgan as well for those sweet, sweet dividends. I also own a lot of Kraft Heinz for dividends as well. And VU is my last biggest holding with $64,000 in that ETF. In terms of my biggest losers in this account, Google is definitely one of the biggest ones at minus 10,000. I believe the cost basis that I bought Google at was $120 per share. I'm still definitely just comfortable owning Google for the very long term. One ticker symbol that I added recently was gold. So this is actually a gold mining corporation called Barrick Gold Corp. And the reason that I added it is that if the Fed pauses hikes or the US dollar weakens, we should see an increase in the price of gold. And this is something just to kind of hedge against all the volatility of this year. If we add up all the dividends in this account, just from all the dividend payers that I own, like AbbVie and JP Morgan, I'm earning about $500 a month in dividends, which is really great. And so if you pair that with some really good appreciation of a stock, for example, JP Morgan is up 20%, 19.76% since I bought it. It's a really, really great thing. I don't check on this stuff quite that often, and I think I would probably be better served if I rotated out of some of individual names and just into ETFs like VOO or SPY or SCHD. And the reason being is that I realize that sometimes they are a little bit of a distraction. I find myself checking them all the time. And even though I'm not really touching them, I'm still kind of emotionally on that roller coaster looking at what their prices are day to day. I do feel like the big names that I own in this portfolio though are probably gonna be fine for the long haul. So let me know what you think of this portfolio so far. And if you've been keeping track, that means that should bring our total portfolio size as of this point in the video up to $483,000. But now let's talk about my angel investments. So an angel investment is basically when an individual investor gets to invest in an early stage company, typically a startup that hasn't gone public yet. Now, the way you usually get access to an angel investment is that you usually have to know somebody. So you have to know like the founder that works at that startup that gives you that allocation, or you invest through a fund. The check sizes for an angel investment are usually pretty small, between 1 and 5K, or sometimes even 5 to 20K. And in general, you just have to kind of spray and pray, because even the best angel investors, their success rate on angel investments is like 1 in 20 actually become successful. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say how much I've invested into each individual angel investment. However, I will say that the cumulative that I've invested is about $57,000. Angel investing is super high risk, high potential reward, but I would say most of them fail. So with a lot of these angel investments, I'm just pretending that this money doesn't exist. These are the 4 angel investments I have: Prize Pool, Roadrunner VC, Space Place, and Carrot. Prize Pool is a prize-linked savings account. Roadrunner is actually a rolling fund, and it was started by Ask Sebi, the YouTuber, as well as Nate O'Brien. And what they do is they actually pool a bunch of investor funds known as limited partners, and then they take those funds and invest them in other startups. So kind of by proxy, I am invested in more than just these 4 angel investments, but Roadrunner kind of takes care of the investing on my behalf into those startups. The 3rd angel investment I have is called Space Place. It was started by a friend of mine from high school, and they're trying to make hospitality properties shoppable. Lastly, we have Carrot, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Carrot, but it's the credit card for creators, and I use that credit card myself, so I was able to actually invest in that round as well. So if we are counting angel investments as part of my portfolio, that brings our total portfolio size to $540,000. Okay, let's talk about cryptocurrency now. If you've been following the channel for quite a while, you know that about a year and a half ago, I was dabbling in a lot of NFTs, and at some point my NFT portfolio was up well over $100,000. But I'm not gonna lie guys, a lot of my NFTs have basically gone to zero because that entire market has crashed. Now there are a select few NFT projects that have survived, but my favorite NFT project was called the Boryoku Dragons, and each of those JPEGs, for example, were going for about 25 to 30,000 a piece. And even though I bought them early, now they're only selling for about $1,000 a piece. Now, luckily I did sell some of those while I was still profitable, so I actually have a full log of all the NFTs I bought in 2022, and you can actually see if we sum up my profit and loss column that I'm down about $18,800 on NFTs overall. Now, I still have a couple NFTs still worth between $10,000 and $15,000, so I'd like to think I'm slightly break even or slightly losing on NFTs, when in actuality, many other people have lost a bunch of money, but still at one point I was up a ton, and now it's just basically worth nothing. Now, a huge lesson for me is like, if you're ever up like 2x, 3x, 5x on an investment, and you're thinking about whether or not you should cash out or not, I would just say take the money and run. I'm a little embarrassed by how much I was up, yet I didn't cash out, and now I'm definitely shooting myself in the foot, but I think that many people are probably in my position. All right, looking at the crypto in my Coinbase account, I have a balance of $45,000, and in terms of what I actually own of this $45,000, you can see that I own almost $9,000 worth of Bitcoin and about $4,000 worth of Ethereum. Now you can see that I have $32,000 in cash here, and the reason is that I'm dollar cost averaging every Monday into Bitcoin. Out of all the cryptos, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are the ones that are gonna stay around for a very long time, so I'm just trying to invest in the safe ones and not really pay attention to any of the altcoins. That brings my total investment portfolio size to $584,000, and that amount can fluctuate on any given day quite a bit. In total, my overall investment portfolio is down about $20,000 to $25,000 as of right now, which is about 5%, which doesn't sound all that bad, but considering where it was at the all-time high, I'm actually down quite a bit. Now, a lot of that has to do with my big holdings in Palantir, Tesla, and Google as of right now, but again, since I'm holding for such a long period of time, I'm hoping that those stocks recover. Now, my investment philosophy moving forward is that the market does go up over time, especially if I'm just invested in like ETFs and index funds. So historically, that's what it's done. For individual names, I think that the solid companies will still appreciate in value, especially if my time horizon is 10 or 20 years. I do want to continue dollar cost averaging into the market and also keeping some of my cash on the sidelines, especially as the risk-free rate nears 5%. That actually might just be a good option for my cash. One type of investment that I'd like to get into this year or maybe even next year is real estate. It seems to be one of the best asset classes to help you score tax deductions, and it's not really correlated with the market, which I like. Now, speaking of some of the cash that I do have, I keep a lot of my cash in a high yield savings account. So in my case, I use Wealthfront's 3.8% cash account, which is FDIC insured. Now, the reason I personally have some cash on the sidelines is in case of a black swan market event. So maybe if like the market tanks 30 to 50%, or if there's some distressed real estate property that I might see this year that I can scoop up with the cash that I have, I think that could be a pretty good play. I think the conventional wisdom is that you don't want to have too much cash lying around, which sometimes I can agree with, but I'm on the more risk averse side, and I definitely feel a lot more comfortable when I have more cash in my bank account. Okay, so that's everything I invest in. I hope that you enjoyed. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible here, and a huge reason as to why this portfolio size was so large was because my income really grew in 2021 and 2022 because of social media and you guys watching. I was thinking of doing a video about how much I made in 2022, so if you are interested in seeing that, make sure to drop me a comment and also subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 1 million subscribers. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video, and watch out for Kevin. He's out there.